demonstration of what the previous speaker was talking about the whole human. I would like to welcome to the podium Angela Dean, the TAFE organiser from the AEU. Also spectacular woman. Please. I don't know anything personal about her.
Thank you so much, Meredith, and I'm really happy to be here today as the TAFE Focus organiser from the AEU, and it's really wonderful to see everyone joining our event today and sharing some fantastic information about TAFE and what TAFE could be in the next 10 years. Now, we had some wonderful speakers today. We've heard from Jim Stanford, who really gave a great outline of why funding TAFE makes economic sense. We heard from Matt Nolan and Tara Calabro about some of the fantastic industry partnerships and the very successful industry partnership in Barossa Village, and the fantastic plans Tara's outlined also for future pathways programs within all of the aged care areas. Craig Foster also spoke about the social responsibility that we have to communities to help develop full humans, help provide full training and full skills development, not just in practical vocational education skills, but very importantly as global citizens, and those people have transferable skills across all industry areas. And I'm also very proud, myself personally, as a previous women's education graduate also, as a previous women's education lecturer, to hear from two fantastic graduates from our program, both Gaynor Bowers and Linda Gibson, who shared very powerful stories about how their educational journey has helped open so very many doors throughout their career pathways. So when we think about this, given the small snapshot of information provided today, what do we think TAFE's role should be of vocational education in the next 10 years? Truly, the possibilities are endless. TAFE is best positioned to provide high-quality skills and training that workers need to upskill in the post-pandemic world. If we guarantee 70% of all funding to TAFE across both state and federal governments, we can rebuild the TAFE infrastructure and workforce to provide world-leading vocational education. We can rebuild the focus on providing high-quality education and education support services that are needed in all communities across our state. We can also rebuild the workforce and across Australia to address the skills shortages and meet the needs of new emerging industries in our state. Together, if we really put our minds to it, we can rebuild with TAFE here in South Australia. Now, our newly elected state Labor government has recently announced a review of TAFE. And this is a golden opportunity for all of you in the room, key stakeholders, community and industry members to have their say on what is the future of TAFE in South Australia. Now, to learn a little bit more about the review, a very crucial voice in this piece is the Minister for Education and Training, the Hon Blair Boyer. Now, Blair completed an arts and law degree at university. He practiced as a solicitor before starting work for Country Labor MP. Blair also worked as Chief of Staff to the then Minister Jennifer Ranke and Deputy Chief of Staff to Premier Jay Weatherill. The focus of his work in government has been education, child protection, industrial relations and emergency services, the latter leading Blair to become a volunteer with the Salisbury SCS unit. So, Minister, my question is now to you. Where do you see the future of TAFE in SA?
Thank you, Angela, and good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here. I'll start by acknowledging the land we're meeting on is land of the Kaurna people, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'm only here with you for a short time today, and I'm sorry there is a reception at Government House for high school leaders, which I need to go to. So otherwise I would have been here for a bit longer, and my apologies for that. And I acknowledge a few people as well. Andrew Gold, David Colton and Joe Denley as well. Fantastic to have you all here. And a big thank you to the AEU for organising this as well. And Jeannie Ray is here, I believe, somewhere as well, which is fantastic. There she is. Hello, Jeannie. But a big thank you to the union particularly for making this happen. This is a really important thing to do. I think we would all probably agree that one of the greatest challenges that we have as people who are real believers in the power of TAFE is telling the good stories. I think that is becoming increasingly difficult. It's always been easier, I think, in our sort of media landscape to tell negative stories, but I think probably with the kind of decline that we've seen in traditional media establishments, print news and things like that, that we now very much part of a kind of 24-hour news cycle that is driven by things that get people to click and be outraged, and videos that might be, you know, popular to share on different social media sites, more so than telling longer form stories about the power of institutions like TAFE. So unfortunately that's the landscape in which we have to work, which means the onus upon all of us in this room, including me as the Minister, to find ways to tell the powerful stories about TAFE are even more important. But I very much need the help of the people in this room to do that, to come to me and tell me some of the great things that are happening, and together with David and his team, and with some help from some unions as well as the AEU since the March election, we have been able to actually tell some good stories about things that TAFE has done, and they have actually run well in the media, but it takes a lot of work to get a positive story to that point. And of course it's always much easier for them to grab hold of something negative and run that. So we're always going to be up against that, which is tough. But we are starting the review, and it's good to have Jeannie here. I've been careful to try to refer to it as a roadmap, because I knew the obvious reaction from people in media land and the commentariat would be basically exactly along the lines of what I think the opposition referred to it as, which was TAFE is the most reviewed organisation in the land. Why are we having another review? And what I've tried to say is this is not a retrospective review necessarily into things that have gone wrong, which happen in all organisations. This is an opportunity, as Angela said so well just before, to actually shape the vision for TAFE over the next 10 years for us all as important stakeholders, whether it's you know, people who work for TAFE, unions, industry bodies, employers, government get a chance to speak honestly about what it is they think that TAFE needs to be doing differently. And I've got to say that it's had a tough life over the last 10 years, and I've been pretty honest, so has the Premier, both before the state election and since the state election, that the Labor Party doesn't come to this table with clean hands on this either. We have been responsible in some cases for making decisions around TAFE which have not put it in a good place. So I cut Jo and her team and David some slack for some of the issues that they are facing now, because some of them are not of their making. They are decisions that state governments have made that in some ways have really cut TAFE off at the knees in terms of its ability to deliver the fantastic stuff that it does. But I want to see that change. And I grew up in a country area in southwest Victoria. It's now called Southwest TAFE down there, I think, but it was always a really important part of the education environment down there. There weren't heaps of options. There were no universities. There was Deakin in Warrnambool, which ran a few courses. Other than that, you're going to Geelong or you're going to Melbourne. So if you wanted to stay local, which a lot of people of course did, you had TAFE, and it was an important thing. Now, one of the things that the new Premier has been really keen to bring back quickly are country cabinets, and we've had 2 of them already. The first was in the Limestone Coast area in Mount Gambier, and then a few weeks ago we had our second, which was in the Upper Spencer Gulf. So we did it across a couple of days in Port Pirie and Port Augusta. I spent a lot of that time talking about our plans for the 5 technical colleges that we're going to build across South Australia, the first being at Findon High, which is going to open in 2024, one at Tonsley, which is going to open in 2025, and then Mount Gambier, Port Augusta and the Heights School in the northeast, which will all be open by the start of the 2026 school year. But the couple of days I spent in the country cabinet in Pirie and Augusta, Port Augusta, were a chance for me to talk about what that tech college can do for that community, but also to listen about what TAFE's involvement in that tech college could be. And most importantly, I got a really good opportunity to sit down with representatives from GFG and Nearstar, 2 very, very big employers in the area, who spoke to me pretty plainly about the job opportunities that they have in their businesses at the moment. They put it to me, I think GFG said they have 300 vacancies and Nearstar have 90. And I believe them when they say this, because we had a long, very frank conversation that they are prepared to use local TAFE campuses and local TAFE staff if we can get our offering there right to train the local workforce to take those jobs. Now, if that's not the role of TAFE, then I don't know what is, and that's what I want to see. And the story I brought back from the 2 days I did in Upper Spencer Gulf that I shared with Cabinet and with Peter was we have to change something. If we aren't supporting TAFE in those areas to be able to train local workforce and local people to take jobs that are open right now, then we have to do something differently. So I'm very much hoping that the review / roadmap that Jeannie is undertaking will show us the way to how we can revitalise those TAFE campuses, because we know that it's possible. I mean, Victoria has largely done this, really. They were in a place like the place we have found ourselves in with TAFE not so many years ago. The state government there, I think, for the most part, has done a really good job of turning it around. They've done it through genuine investment. We've got fee-free TAFE coming from the federal government now, a lot of places. And the good news I can share with you is I've just come last week, Friday, we had a skills ministers meeting in Melbourne. We were talking about workforce shortages, but we had a very long chat, ministers from all states, around what fee-free TAFE would look like. We got a chance to speak to the federal minister, Brendan O'Connor, in close quarters, so he couldn't escape from us, and say, what do you think is going to happen? All the states, regardless of whether they were Labor states or Liberal states, said they are very, very keen to make sure that we hold autonomy to decide which fee-free courses we offer in each state, to make sure that we use this federal money as an opportunity of setting TAFE up for the future. Because we know mistakes have been made in the past where it becomes a total free-for-all, and then like that, the money gets turned off federally and everything goes to you-know-what. And we can't have that happen again. So I'm very pleased that all the messaging that we're getting from the federal government and the minister, and I can tell you, Brendan is, I honestly think, a very strong believer in TAFE, which is a really pleasant change to have a federal minister who wants to do good things with TAFE. We're heading towards a situation where South Australia is going to get a lot of input into choosing which free spots we've got, and I'm hoping that that can be an olive branch towards us revitalising some of the campuses, and particularly in regional areas where there are opportunities, and bring them back to what they used to be. Because it's actually not that complicated. I think in many cases, we've made it feel like it's rocket science to revitalise. It's not. I mean, the feedback when I said to GFG and Nearstar, I said, what could I do as minister so that you start using those campuses tomorrow? I said, if you can find the lecturing staff there willing to come and do it with the expertise, and that's going to be a challenge for us, we are prepared to go back and use those campuses. That's not complicated. The facilities largely are there, and a lot of those places, the campus is there, and I actually think in places like, just as an example, Pirrie and Port Augusta and Mount Gambier, the TAFE brand is still strong. There are a lot of people there who worked in those industries that GFG and Nearstar still represent decades ago, who came through the TAFE system there and had long and really successful careers, who were saying to their kids, being trained and graduating from TAFE will set you up, and it's quality. And I still hear all the time on my travels, and try to get to the TAFE campus wherever I can when I'm out visiting schools, and I still feel that the brand of TAFE is a lot stronger than what the media might have us believe the brand of TAFE is like. That's the thing that's really surprised me in a positive way since becoming minister, is that I don't think the public's perception of TAFE mirrors the media and commentariat's view of TAFE. Now that's a really good thing, because that presents us with a real opportunity to make gains. And I guess some of the things that we've done in the first 7 months since coming to government, separate to the tech colleges, which will be a great opportunity for TAFE to partner, but we've also brought back some of those courses in metropolitan campuses that were cut, in the individual support areas, and I've got to say it's been really nice to get positive feedback. You're never quite sure when you're promising things from opposition about how they'll go when you deliver them, but I'm confident we've made the right call there, and I am getting nods from Joe and David, because there's been people knocking down the door to get back into those courses. And when we did those country cabinet meetings, everywhere we went was about skills shortages, but I reckon the kind of one common denominator across all the geographic parts of South Australia is we don't have enough people in the care sectors, whether it's early child education and care, individual ageing support, disability support, all those kind of things. People are really struggling to find the workforce. And the incredible thing was, even when that was happening, the last government thought it might have been a good idea to cut TAFE's metropolitan offering in those courses, even when the reputation of the graduates coming out of those areas amongst the big employer groups, and we had on hand when we, excuse the pun, but we had on hand on the day that the Premier and I announced they were coming back, Helping Hand and Rembrandt Living, I think were two of them, and there was nothing that Peter or I could say that was more powerful than what they said. They were glowing in terms of how they had relied for years and years on TAFE graduates because they said they were the best in the area. So that's pleasing that we've been able to do that. We are looking for opportunities to bring other things back to TAFE as well, other courses. I know that we, for instance, one of our other big election commitments is a Royal Commission in delivering 3-year-old preschool. Now, a few of the challenges in that are going to be having the capacity in our preschools, wherever they are, metropolitan or regional areas, to make sure that they could accommodate 3-year-olds on top of the 4-year-olds who already go there and get their free 15 hours a week. But the other challenge is having the workforce there. And that, again, another fantastic opportunity for TAFE. And who can we look to in South Australia particularly to be able to train a workforce like that in regional areas? Well, it's TAFE. And when I get this argument, and I still cop it a fair bit about how much it costs for TAFE to deliver training versus how much it costs some private groups to deliver training, I'm always careful to say, particularly when I'm in interstate meetings, look at South Australia. We are a state of 1.6 or 1.8 million people. We are a huge, geographically huge state in which the second biggest city outside of Adelaide is Mount Gambier at 25,000 people. Now, that's not the biggest city within an hour's drive down there. You can go to Warrnambool and it's 35,000 people. So, but it is the commitment of government, and it's the commitment of this government to be able to provide quality education and training no matter where you live. And that includes on the APY lands. And I got to travel recently all the way up to Colca and Pip in the northwestern extremity of the state, and we've got a TAFE campus there. I mean, we've got a TAFE campus in what is basically Australia's most remote regional community, where it's 8 hours to the next place with any people. And we get this argument about why does TAFE cost so much to operate? Well, because we're operating in places where the private market is never ever going to operate, and to cut them some slack, you can never expect them to operate there as well. But we have to tell that story of why it's important, and we have failed in doing that, both sides of politics. I would argue the former mob had no desire in telling the story. We failed in telling it. That South Australia, of all the states, maybe with the exception of the Northern Territory, has got the biggest challenge here because we have small populations spread over a huge space. But there are opportunities there, and there are opportunities in the labour market now, probably more so than there have been for a long time. And the thing that I found really pleasing about sitting down with the skills ministers in Melbourne last week, given that the majority of us were probably members of the Labor Party, but there was a few Liberal Party ministers there as well. Even the Liberal Party ministers spoke about how having historically low unemployment rates was actually an opportunity to get people who might have been long-term employed or from families that might have actually had the challenge of multi-generational unemployment into the workforce. That's exactly how we have to be looking at that. This is our big chance here to actually bite into that big chunk of people who we haven't been able to lift up before and get them into work. But if we squander this chance, we're going to be looking back at it in 10 or 15 years and thinking, what a waste. If we just plug this hole now with overseas labour or skilled migration, and a bit of that's going to have to be a part of the solution, but if we take the easy way out, we are wasting a huge opportunity here. But one of the huge keys in South Australia to us being able to train those people and get them jobs is TAFE. So I want this roadmap to be put together quickly, use the momentum that we've got, because this all presents an opportunity in terms, I think, the current skills shortages, to say there's real impetus from not just government but the public to say, yeah, we should be investing public funds in TAFE because we're going to get a return on that. It is an investment. If that can provide training and get locally unemployed people, or at least local people coming into the workforce to take the local jobs, instead of situations where I think at the moment where we're probably getting those companies like GFG and Nearstar in some cases to send the workforce down to TAFE at Tonsley or other places instead of using the regional campus. So these are the opportunities we have, and I'm not going to say much more. I just want to say I hope it comes across that I am passionate about doing something here. and we do have a real opportunity, and I think we are at a fortunate place in terms of having a few things working in our favour around the upside of skill shortages is that people understand something's got to be done, because the general public out there are starting to feel the downside of that when they can't get the services they want, and they're starting to understand, gee, yeah, government needs to do something about that. We have a new state government and federal government. A federal government that's putting fee-free TAFE places in, a state government that is building tech colleges and bringing courses back to TAFE, and I reckon, I'm confident that if we all get involved in the roadmap and get to have our say, we can deliver something out of that that will mean, in a few years' time, hopefully, we have revitalised TAFE campuses all across the place, and we're delivering a public training system more akin to the one that's happening over the border than the one we've had here for the last few years. So thanks again to organising today and giving me a chance to come and address you. Sorry I'm not sticking around, but yeah, thank you for the chance to speak to you and for your advocacy for TAFE as well.